So Matt Sundin, the former captain of the Buffalo Bills of the NHL, the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have won fuck all in 58 years ever since they won the 67 Cup. It will be 58 years next year. He's coming out with his new book, but this story's been trending all day. He said that Leafs fans deserve the Stanley Cup, says Hall of Famer Matt Sundin. I'm a Montreal Canadian fan. I can tell you, they don't deserve it. You must earn it. Sundin, in the report on CBC about his book, says he wishes he could have been part of a team to do it, but is thankful for what hockey gave him. Now, the article was by the great young journalist Philip Dross for CBC. The article goes like this. The closest Matt Sundin came to a Stanley Cup was in 2002, which is 22 years ago. The Maple Leafs were in Game 6 against the Carolina Hurricanes in the conference finals. With just seconds left, Sundin shot and scored to tie the game at 1-1. But the Hurricanes would go on to win in overtime, cutting off the Leafs' run at the finals. Again, that's the last season that Toronto was really a playoff contender, 22 years ago. It's devastating. Everybody's crying, Sundin told the current guest host Peter Armstrong. You put in so much time and efforts in September and you fall just a little bit short. You win 10 games, but you got to win 16, right? You're not far away. But despite never winning a Stanley Cup, the longtime Leafs captain says he has no regrets. I have zero, because, hockey, it gave me my family so much unexpected happiness, and everything we have today is because of hockey, said Sundin. The Swedish hockey player spent 13 seasons in Toronto, including 11 as the team's captain. They picked him up for the Nordiques, which I think caused the Nordiques to franchise. If they would have kept him, I think Quebec would be still around. Sundin is detailing his career and the rest of his life in his new memoir, Home and Away. Sundin first came to Toronto in 1994 when he was first traded from the Nordiques to the Maple Leafs in a deal that included franchise icon Wendell Clark. It gave Sundin big skates to fill, but ended up going above and beyond. Sundin will go on to put a permanent mark on the franchise, leaving the team as his all-time leader in goals with 420 and most points with 987. And while Sundin played a short stint for the Canucks before retiring in 2009, he says nothing compares to playing for the Leafs. There's no market like playing in Toronto, said Sundin. Bullshit. Montreal Canadiens, New York Rangers, even some of the southern teams, Detroit, it's one of the best, but it's not the best. The media basically freaks out like they were booing last night in the 8th game of the season because they weren't scoring on the power play. Now, this is what he said, and you got to respect him. Players, I don't care if they grew up in Toronto until they put on the blue and white jersey and actually represent the Maple Leafs. It's impossible to understand what it means. But the fact is, the Leafs have been losers in the playoffs. 2 playoff series victories since that year with Sundin. He said it's a tougher market to play in. There's more pressure in Toronto. The team is under a microscope at all times. And whenever a team comes to town, you're getting their best game, even you're far from the team to beat. Now, despite the challenges that come with playing for the Leafs, Sundin says there's no other place he would have wanted to win the title more. The place to win the Stanley Cup is in Toronto because that's where it would mean the most. Bullshit. Again, no. Montreal 2021, enough said. He recently had the opportunity to see the next team that has a chance of achieving that goal. Sundin was at the Leafs training camp ahead of this season. I'm very impressed with the team. Obviously, I think everybody that watches the team knows what we can do on the ice. Lost 2 straight and are 4-4 in the start of the season, the worst start in quite some time. The former captain had some advice for star Austin Matthews and company. Just keep driving, become a really tight group that buys into the coach's program, and you're going to have a great spring, said Sundin. Asked if they got a chance of winning it all, he says, of course. Toronto Maple Leaf fans deserve the Stanley Cup, head smack, and it's been a long time. And he can't even remember the last time they won. And you know that hurts. We weren't able to do that when I look back, but it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. Yeah, maybe in the 22nd century when Mary Lemieux III or whoever goes on. So I don't know what put it in the Matt Sundin. I don't know where you're coming from. Let's put this in general perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Sundin is a tremendous player. They had every opportunity when they picked up Sundin, and there were what they call semi-final contenders. They weren't Stanley Cup contenders. And every time they had a key series, they lost. Now, the Montreal Canadiens in 2021 with 3 players, pretty much Carey Price and the youngsters and Shea Weber, got into the Stanley Cup final, and you got to have a hot goalie. Sundin is kind of not talking the whole picture. Toronto has not had a number 1 goalie for a number of years, and we'll see that they only have one really big rivalry, the Montreal Canadiens. And the Montreal Canadiens are a building team. Montreal didn't make the playoffs last 2 years. And if they ever get momentum this year, it sure has been a hard start, 2-4-1. But if they ever get momentum, the team that's going to be knocked out of the playoffs is going to be Toronto. Now, Toronto had a good first round last year, God bless them. But the second round, they pretty well choked. They brought in all these big stars, and Austin Matthews had 69 goals. But imagine this, ladies and gentlemen, even the Kansas City Chiefs, who were pretty well 50 years in the wilderness until Patrick Mahomes showed up, won the Super Bowl. Buffalo Bills, although they have a good team this year, are still in the wilderness, haven't won since the AFL years. Sure, they won the AFC, they made it for 4 straight Super Bowls. Dallas Cowboys has been 31 years, or 30 years, and they don't have the marquee players like the triplets. Their defense is terrible. So really, the only team that can compare, there is no comparison. 58 years. Now, Toronto was a team of the 40s, technically, because it's Silap's generation. They were the team of the 60s with Dave Keon. They won 4 cups, and of course, the head-to-head against Belleville, they won in 67. No disregarding that. But this is a team that had all these factors in the 70s, and he played the Flyers every round for most of the mid-70s. Then he played Montreal back-to-back. They were the 3rd best team in the league, give or take, or 4th. They could easily made the final, but the schedule worked against them. Montreal swept them in 78 and 79. There was people back then even believing that Toronto of 78 was going to beat Montreal. I don't think so. So Matt Sundin, he has to promote the book. There's a lot of Toronto Maple Leaf fans. But would you stay with a man for 58 years who bet you up on a regular basis, broke your heart, fucked your neighbors like crazy, took all your money, and said, well, he's misunderstood? Toronto Maple Leafs are like a bad spouse. It doesn't matter if it's gay or straight. There's no way in the world that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win anything more than 2nd or 3rd place in the division this year. And they're not good in the playoffs. They're not motivated because you don't have to win in the playoffs. But saying that the Maple Leaf fans deserve it, there is no deserve. I mean, you do good in the regular season. Like the Blue Jays were good for 3 straight years. Did he deserve the World Series? Some of the best fans in the world are Blue Jay fans. And did he deserve the World Series? No. In 92 and 93, they worked hard for it and got it. So I wish Matt Sundin luck with the book. I think it's a good read. I would recommend to anybody listening to podcast channel. But this is a pro-Montreal Canadian channel. This is a pro-reality channel. When I saw that comment today that the Leafs deserve it, head smack. I think Burt Reynolds is a great actor. Did he deserve an Oscar for Boogie Nights? Maybe. Did he deserve does Harrison Ford deserve an actor? Well, an Oscar, yes, for All He Sold, but I mean, he was always second place. The Maple Leafs are great in the regular season, and they fuck up in the playoffs, enough said. And by the way, Toronto Maple Leaf fans deserve a chance to win the cup from management. They shouldn't deserve it just because they're loyal. And the strangest person in the world is a non-Dave Keon Toronto Maple Leaf fans. If you're a fan of the Maple Leafs because of Matt Sundin, good luck with that. That's 22 years ago. That's the last time they were even a contender. 22 years ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing with our Toronto Maple Leaf podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.